Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, Duck Week. Let's go do some duck hunting. Headed out west. Big one for the Buckeyes this week. 2 versus 3. All the marbles, or at least all the early marbles of the season. And we're going to get into that. Tons of recruiting with the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. But first, sweater weather. It is actually getting chilly here. Got senior night for one of my kids coming up. The wife is laying out my clothes. It looks like I'm wearing a sweater. It pairs perfectly with savory fall foods, but with your busy schedule, Nutters, sometimes it's hard to eat the way you'd like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do the shopping and the chopping to bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. All of their meals are dietitian approved, so you know you're getting the nutrition you need along with the fall flavors you crave. This fall, you've got a lot going on outside the kitchen. Keep your plans and turn to Factor. Here's the key. Fresh, nutritious, chef-prepared meals ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 and use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. We've discussed this a lot, but Factor meals are delicious. I raised some food snobs. You guys should do the same. These guys aren't food snobs. Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter are here. We are right in the middle of recruiting season and football season. We have hit our stride, and the Buckeyes face their biggest test of the season this weekend when they head out to Oregon. Those who have felt Ohio State has been out of the national spotlight will not have to worry about that going forward. But first, it was a very successful weekend in the shoe. Ohio State disposed of Iowa. However, Bill, Mark, you guys know that these games also offer the chance for Ohio State to offer up what they do well, and that's recruiting. Who is here, Bill? You've covered it plenty since. Who is here? Who did they focus on? Who got the real red carpet treatment? And can you put it all in context now that we are arrived at Tuesday and headed towards the meeting with Oregon?
Yeah, I've been talking a while about the 3 big recruiting weekends for Ohio State, those being the Iowa game, the Nebraska game, and, of course, the Michigan game. Michigan will be the biggest, always is when that's a home game. But initially, I thought Iowa would be the next biggest, and then Nebraska. And then as things kind of moved forward and some visits got changed and all, I thought, well, Nebraska may be a little bit bigger than Iowa because now they have 2 official visitors coming in for Nebraska. The offensive lineman that's committed to Georgia Tech, Damola Ajadan, and then Zaire Mathis, even though he's committed, that's a big official visit. So with those 2 official visits, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe Nebraska moves ahead. But as things turns out, overall, Iowa may turn out to be the bigger one. They're at least very close. It was really a big weekend for Ohio State. New offers went out. You know, we've talked a lot on this podcast about Adam Guthrie, the offensive lineman from Washington Courthouse, Miami Trace. He got an offer. We talked last week about how it would not be a shock if he got an offer. Mark talked about, his potential and all that. J.J. Finch, the defensive lineman from Indiana, was offered Ohio State. Ohio State also hosted wide receiver Connor Salmon, and they made a big move with him. And all these kids are class of 2026 prospects, and all are very interested in Ohio State. So that was big. I posted a story this morning on Kyle Edmonds, the elite quarterback from California, and his visit. It was a rather in-depth visit and an in-depth article I had on the site this morning. It's still on there. Brady Edmonds and his dad got to Ohio State on Saturday, and they stayed till late Sunday afternoon. They went to Ohio State's practice on Sunday and sat in on the team meetings. I'm not going to tell you everything about the article, or else you wouldn't read it. But Brady and his father were very impressed, and Ohio State is a school. Let's just say I can understand why our California guys, Blair Angulo and Greg Biggins, crystal balled Brady to Ohio State early. So that visit was very, very well. And, another visit went very well was Dorian Barney, the Alabama defensive back commit from 2026 class. His visit went extremely well. In fact, he's talking about the possibility of getting back for the Ohio State-Michigan game. He's still committed to Alabama, but that visit went extremely well. And a little cherry on top of the cake, wow, he was sitting on Ohio Stadium watching the Buckeyes beat Iowa easily. Alabama was losing to Vanderbilt. So that's not necessarily a bad thing there. Max Riley, getting him back on campus, very, very important. Zach Weeks, the linebacker, out-of-state linebacker, his visit went extremely well this weekend. Getting Riley Pettijohn and Tarvos Alford, two of the commitments that were on campus, that was really important. Tarvos Alford has not completely shut down his recruitment, so you get him back on campus, and that is a great thing. It's not confirmed yet, but there's a lot of talk out there that Riley Pettijohn may go to the Georgia at Texas game. So getting him back on the Ohio State campus ahead of that was a very good thing. Jameer Brown, I sat and watched him put on a spectacular performance as Huber Heights Wayne upset Springfield 36-6 on Friday night. Then he ended, and that was a spectacular performance. He had a 64-yard touchdown, and he had a 30 or a 45-yard touchdown. He was fantastic. Springfield punted the ball away from him, and he still almost broke a punt return for a touchdown. It came real close. So really, all in all, and getting him back at Ohio State, that's the first time that Jameer Brown has been in Ohio Stadium for an Ohio State football game. So that was big. So all in all, it was a big weekend for Ohio State.
Bill, I want to touch on Jameer Brown real quick. I know Vegas doesn't do high school lines in Ohio, but Springfield would have been favored in that game, which is there aren't many scores that shock me. What was it? There was one earlier this year. Bellbrook beating Bell Fountain cranked my neck, but this one, 36-6. Wayne has actually struggled. They lost to Fairmont. For them to go beat Springfield like that, very impressive. Let me hear what you thought of him in person, in detail. We talked about him being the number one rated wide receiver in the country. I don't know if we just take that for granted here or not now, considering the fact each one for the past few years and going forward has at least either come to Ohio State or considered it. Is he in the mix with those guys?
From what I saw on Friday night, he is. You mentioned, Dan, about that being a shocker to you, and I was surprised too. But a little caveat there. Huber Heights Wayne has had some injuries, and they've gotten some guys back healthy again. And that's really helped. That really helped them on Friday night. That and Jameer Brown going off as a spectacular performance. But I was a little surprised. Springfield, 3 years in a row, they have been the Division I state runners-up 3 years in a row. They came into that game having lost a couple. They were 4-2 going into that game, but Huber Heights Wayne was 2-4 going into the game. Yeah. So for Huber Heights Wayne to do what they did to Springfield did surprise me a bit. Springfield's a great program. And Mo Douglas always has his share of players, and he does a great job. So with what happened at that game did surprise me some. Huber Heights Wayne they dominated. They scored the first touchdown and didn't look back, and 36-6, as we mentioned. It was a running clock, and it was a running clock for Wayne. I did not expect that.
No doubt.
But,
they have
Wayne has Brown's the real deal.
Yeah, Absolutely. Wayne also has a pretty good quarterback, Terrell Lewis. I think he's going to Arkansas State. So definitely good if you're the number one receiver in the country to have a quality quarterback in your stable as well. So very impressive there. Mark, your thoughts on the offer to Guthrie? It's something we discussed a lot. I'm a little bit surprised, but clearly my surprise is not dictating anything because I'm surprised a lot.
Yeah, I'll start with Huber Heights, Wayne versus Springfield. If you would have been at their high school showcase, you would not have been shocked that they could do that to Springfield. I mean, they have a big-time tight end, maybe the best tight end in Ohio. They have 2 or 3 of the best receivers in Ohio, and you have Gage Mice and Tyrell Lewis. And, I mean, there's a cast of characters on that team that I when you guys said they were such a big underdog, I was kind of taken back. I'm like, I could see that based on Springfield state championship runs, but talent-wise, they are. And it all starts with the quarterback. You know, I mean, he is as good as a high school quarterback as you're going to see, and obviously he's going to college. So not shocked. And again, the last podcast, I wasn't shocked. Jameer Brown was ranked as highly as he was. The Adam Guthrie situation is frustrating to me because I went to see him 3 weeks ago, and that's the night they got rained out. So I didn't get to be as predictive in this situation as I would have liked to. I'd like to have been ahead of the curve and said, yeah, we had film of him 3 weeks ago, and we said this offer was coming. So now we're playing catch up here. But we will be at one of his games to give you guys some great footage, and hopefully the rain stays away. I have done a horrible job of finding rain on Friday nights. It seems like everywhere I go, the umbrella is near. But yeah, Guthrie, we said, is one of those guys that just had to do a little uptick from the sophomore to junior tape, and obviously that's what's happening.
By the way, I talked to Adam about I will be seeing Adam coming up here. I'll probably going to his game against Washington Courthouse in a few weeks, but he does have a big game this Friday night. They play Jackson, and that's the toughest game yet left on their schedule. So I don't think I'll be going down to that one. I think I'm going to see him, like I said, against Washington Courthouse in a few weeks. But we will see Adam Guthrie coming up soon.
Bill, getting back to Brady Edmonds quickly before I let everyone know where they can get some great sunglasses. We had him on commitment watch. It didn't happen. Should I be concerned?
Brady told me last night that everything is the same in that he still likely is planning to make his decision, like he had said before, by the end of this year. But it's not going to come in the next week or so. He said that at this point, he just wants he plays on a good football team, and he wants to focus not on recruiting for the next few weeks, but he wants to focus on his high school season. And I totally can get on board with that. But after that high school season is over, then he is going to focus on recruiting, and I do think he is going to make his decision, this is my opinion, before the end of the year. And I would not bet against Ohio State. That is my opinion. That's not what he said. But personally, I would not bet against Ohio State.
You guys are getting loose in the chat over here. Let's keep it on the rails. But we will follow.
And by the way, it is the same 4 schools for Kyle Edmonds. It is Ohio State. It is Texas.
Bill, do you know someone named Kyle Edmonds?
Or Brady Edmonds.
I do that. I told you I do that all the time. If you guys go to the site and you hear us joking about Ron Wilson, that's Kevin Wilson, the former offensive coordinator that I called Ron because Ron Wilson was the coach of the Washington Capitals, and apparently I didn't have room in my brain for 2 Wilsons, so we had to go with that. But
in my case, it's I knew someone named Kyle Edmonds.
There you go.
So I always think of that, but it is absolutely 100% Brady Edmonds, and he is an elite quarterback.
Good to know. Also good to know. How many times have you gone, and I've done this many times, you go to a Buckeyes game, noon kickoff, you got your sunglasses on, you tailgated beforehand, your decision-making gets suspect, and by 6 p.m., you took your sunglasses off, you wake up the next morning, they're nowhere to be found. You're out a couple $100 or whatever you pay for sunglasses, so you don't need to do that. What you need is Goodr.com, Goodr.com. stylish sunglasses starting at only $25 a pair. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun. I wear the Call Me Tarmac Daddies. These are fire. Check these things out. Oh my gosh. I got to fight it off. Anyway, high performance sunglasses designed to make you feel like the best athlete of all time. All frames have UV 400 polarized lenses, the Bolt G, the Bug G, the Astro G. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving BM5 listeners free shipping. Go to gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Now, if you were to buy 3 pairs at $25 a pop, then you really have your insurance set. That's what I would do. All right.
Bucknutters, real quick, I saw Deidre Sanchez on our podcast here reminded me, everybody, this is not shocking, but still important. Devin Sanchez, as we talked about, and his family were at the Ohio State-Iowa game, and we've talked quite a long time about Devin Sanchez is a very solid commitment. When they say commitment, they mean commitment. But still, I want to add that Devin told me after the game that he was very impressed, as would be expected, and he is really looking forward to being a part of everything he saw in the shoe on Saturday and being a part of it starting in January. So that is a great thing.
So I don't want to put too much pressure on the Sanchez's, but if you can look behind me, there's some pictures there. One of the pictures that's my guy Scotty Reynolds from Villanova, one of the kids I know from growing up, and you know who that is. Good Lord. Above him is Cal Ripken Jr. And I've often said if Cal Ripken Jr. ever got, in trouble or was part of the steroid thing when Brady Anderson hit 50 homers and was 100 pounds lighter, I'd be bummed out. Very bummed out. If the Sanchez's don't matriculate to Ohio State, I will be equally bummed out after all of this, and I'm not worried about it. So we are very much looking forward to that. Good stuff. We're getting a lot of duck chatter here. Will Star knows what I'm talking about. Losing $35 sunglasses was less stressful than losing some $300. I did it once. One time, and then I was never buying glasses of any ilk ever again because I like to enjoy tailgates. But, Mark, is this the question?
There you go.
Larry Ventresco. Mark, is it better to save some stuff for future opponents or put everything on film so other teams have more to prepare for? We will use this as a lead-in to some fun we have for you today. We are going to show you a part of Buckeye in the Sky. Every week, Mark gets about 12 to 15 plays on tape to break down the game, let you know exactly what happened. And I bring this up because many people think Chip Kelly is holding back, headed out to Oregon, and that the Ducks are going to get the kitchen sink. Mark, your thoughts specifically on the question, and then do you feel like Chip is holding stuff back? And I'll kick the video in when you start chatting.
Yeah, that is an excellent question to lead this off because we have 2 coordinators that are very multiple and diverse and complex in their schemes. Football can be a very basic vanilla sport. There's a lot of vanilla formations and vanilla setups that, everybody runs from, every team in the country. But I think this year we've seen a lot of what this question's getting at. We've seen Chip Kelly put out formations and motions that, as we've broken them down for the Bucknutters, you can see it takes time to explain these things, player responsibilities, how responsibilities change with the motions or unbalanced or whatever it may be, and that equals time. And time is the resource that everybody is limited in, especially college coaches. They only get a couple hours practice time, limited meeting time, etc. So the more you can put on tape to make them practice, great. Football is infinite. And I mean that in a way like there's trips formations, there's bunch trips formations, there's motion the trips, there's trips with heavy personnel, There's trips with, stacked. And I mean, there's so many different ways to line people up with, all the infinite possibilities. I think a nice blend of here's some stuff for you to worry about. We may never run it again. And when we see you, we may have other things that you've never seen before. And I think that continues throughout a season. I think a guy like Chip Kelly recycles things from the past, uses plays he may see at a high school game or a peewee game and say, you know what, we can use that for a week. I think some of these guys, they do a great job of that blend of what he's asking. And I think Coach Knowles as well. And we're going to start off the Buckeye in the Sky with some zone blitzes that I think I saw where these zone blitzes maybe or maybe not the most successful all the time, but you're still putting something on tape that is very complex for the teams you're playing to deal with. So we'll slow this one down and really take a look at it. You see the defense for Ohio State. I have the guys covered back here, and the corner's down at the bottom of the screen, and that's your pretty standard cover 4 or cover 2 shell. Up here on the line, you can see everybody's in the line. There's 6 guys up there, and it's a pretty, I say, mushy picture because you're not sure who's blitzing and who's not blitzing. Hit play here. And I think that creates a clouded picture for quarterbacks, and you want quarterbacks thinking. You don't want to give them the clearest picture. At the snap of the ball, that's going to rotate from cover 3 to cover 4, where I'm going to point to this guy here. He's going to have to come up here and cover a lot of ground because, as you see, off the slot is where the blitz is coming. And you have to cover up that blitz or simply just throw the ball to the hot receiver. That's about as easy it is to beat a blitz. So we're covering up the slot blitz. That's going to be a free runner towards the quarterback. The guys dropping out are the defensive end and 2 linebackers. So it's your standard 3 underneath coverage, which is real standard with cover 4. See the 3 linebackers underneath. Now we have a free runner at the quarterback. It's just, can this guy get there in time to affect this throw? Beating a zone is nothing new. Getting there before you can get this pass off is the trick. What's unique is we do see this play twice on this cut up because they run this again later in the game, and it's the exact same beater. But that was a well-executed play here. This play is pretty simple. Our left guard, and I'm not going to call him out, that's a great job of a stack and shed by a defensive tackle. I wonder, when I saw that, how good 94 is if we're going to see him on draft day. This is the play I wanted to get to.
Hold on a second, because that was Donovan Jackson, theoretically our best guard. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to throw him under the bus there. That could happen to anybody.
The game's on TV.
It doesn't mean he's not our best guard, but I was more interested to see, is that guy from the other team truly a stud of all studs? And you had stud on stud there in a key 4th down.
That's a big 4th and 2 is a big play. That's why we had it on there. I mean,
you're
only getting so many drives. You can't be giving up 4th and 2 at Oregon. Go ahead.
It's obviously more fun for me to pass out compliments than shine the light on things that need work. Okay, so back to the play. This is the exact same blitz where you're having the guy on the edge. Now, he's not a slot corner. He's more of your Sam linebacker where he's lined up. But the orchestration of this blitz is going to be the same guys doing the same thing. So you're just replacing a nickel corner with a Sam linebacker here. As this plays here a little bit, you'll see that the defensive line is going to do the same thing. That cover 3 and right here, which is tough, is this corner or the safety's got to come across the field to cover up where we're blitzing from. And that's a lot of ground to cover, but it's the exact same thing we did on the other blitz. We brought down a safety and rolled to cover 3. Is cover 3 with 3 guys playing linebacker coverage underneath very complex? No. Do teams maybe know that's coming out of our zone blitz? Maybe. That's a pretty standard way to cover up a zone blitz with 3 under, 3 over. 4-man pass rush, when these zone blitzes, you're not sending a lot of heat with only 4 guys. You're giving the illusion you're sending heat with guys coming from different spots. So very similar, the 3 linebackers underneath. And Iowa's doing the same thing. They're trying to get past the first level of linebackers and hook it up behind them. And again, that blitz is a step late. I mean, it's almost there. And that's 2 times they've beat the same blitz with the same pass combo. This is our Sonny Styles play. And I tell the story on this tape. When I went to see Sonny in high school, he was a safety one play. He was a linebacker the next play. And then when they got down to the goal line, he went to defensive end. And when I saw him in this spot, I'm thinking, well, I think I know what's about to happen. His elite quickness across the face here of a defender is just too much for an offensive tackle, especially because he was just being sent on a blitz. That's a great way beating the block there. Big play on first down there, down near the goal line. If we want to do one more, we'll break down cover 2 man.
Let's do it.
Okay, cover 2 man is a very popular coverage, very simple coverage. Everybody's in man-to-man, and they play real tight up here on slants and hitches and quick outs. And if you make a mistake playing real hard on a hitch, you have a safety standing behind you to help clean up the mess if the guy's a hitch and go. Or so it's a pretty safe coverage. We see it a lot. And a 4-man rush, very standard here. This blew my mind. If you're the safety and looking at the top of the screen, and that's Jeremiah Smith, aren't you on high alert? Have you been not watching the beginning of the season? Have your coaches not told you about Jeremiah Smith? Right there, the corner's even, which could mean he's leaving. But, hey, there's a safety standing there waiting for him. How in the world do 2 guys who have that as assigned as the responsibility let him get that far? That's an underthrow. I mean, the quarterback blows the touchdown by underthrowing it there. But, this never ceases to amaze me. Like when you have a fantasy guy and he's the number 1 player in the NFL and like CeeDee Lamb is out there and he's still catching 12 balls for 150 yards. And you're saying, didn't the Steelers watch film? Don't they know he caught 140 balls last year? I mean, when you err on the side of letting Noah Brown or someone else beat you, Dan, I know this is a tough subject to talk about the Cowboys. I switched it over in your lane right there, but
Sound like I cheer for the Browns. Go ahead.
I would think that eventually
it's Cleveland baseball season.
Sure.
I would think we're going to see a defensive coordinator, and maybe it's Oregon this week who says, enough of this Jeremiah Smith nonsense. We know he's good. We know he's great, but he's getting the true double. The true double where you're going to jam him up all night. We're going to have a guy standing over the top, and we're legitimately going to take him out of a game or try to. Will that mess with our offense? I don't think so. I think Chip has seen many times people try to take away number 1s before, and I think we have a couple number 1s. Emeka is truly a number 1. I think we have other guys that will step up. But these breakdowns, as we do them throughout the year, they are fun to do, and you are learning a lot about how deep our playbook is and the X's and O's. I mean, Chip Kelly, he puts stuff on tape every week where I just go, oh. And imagine me as I'm breaking this down. I have to sit back in my chair and think, how do I explain this in normal English, what this guy is doing with his concepts and zone beaters, man beaters, etc.
I'll tell you one play he put in this past week that I really think will be used again and we're going to handle differently is when he had empty backfield and ran it with Howard. They had not done that before. It didn't really go that well, which leads me to believe guys like Chip, every single play is used to at some point in time set up a big play. They're always trying to tease you into doing one little step to the wrong spot and then over the top. Anybody who watched the game last night, the Chiefs versus the Saints game, they showed one highlight where the speedster from New Orleans, the safety, his feet got pointed straight for one step, and it was a 70-yard touchdown. The second the quarterback saw him flatten out, he just took. So they can punish you. All right.
Hey Dan, I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Seeing all these comments about it being duck hunting season by our people there, and the talk about Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and duck hunting season, how come we haven't talked? That was one of my all-time favorite cartoons with the shotgun and all, and I can't believe we haven't talked about that yet. All the comments.
You know how most of the kids on here think Duck Hunt is a Nintendo game. They don't even know it's about Elmer Fudd. And
that was a classic cartoon, and our Bucknuts people are verifying that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Rascally Rabbit.
Wascally. Oh, no doubt. All right, let's go through
some rabbit hunting season.
Let's do some questions here, Bill. There has been we're getting food chatter in here. We got my sweet tooth kicking in. Bill, tell me about Jakeem Stewart. That's what everyone wants to hear about. The number 1 class of now 2025 defensive tackle. Basically, Chris Jones reincarnated, but a teenager. He left St. Augustine, went to Edna Carr. He's not playing football this year, and he reclassified. Everyone thinks it's pretty much LSU, but I've heard that Ohio State could be lurking, a couple other schools. Your latest on Jakeem Stewart, and how excited should we be to be involved in this?
Well, I had a story on this on Saturday afternoon when he announced that he had reclassified. I had a story on Bucknuts that that was no shock. I mean, everybody I think pretty knew that he was going to reclassify and graduate early, and that's what's going to happen. He's got 4 schools really: Ohio State, and he's got LSU, which everybody expected, USC, and Oregon. He is going to be back at Ohio State. That the plan is for the game, the Michigan game, and that's an official visit, and that could well give Ohio State the last shot. We'll see. I still do think that LSU is not going. It's not going to be an easy pool for anybody to get in from LSU, but absolutely, I give Ohio State a shot.
This is not going to surprise anybody. My guess is NIL will be involved with Jakeem Stewart. I don't want to go too far out on a limb there, but I think you can see that happen. All right. Chris Henry Jr., Bill, he got hurt. What's the latest?
Yeah, he is. He's out for this season. He is going to be fine.
Excuse me. That's my fault. Do you know the specific injury? I know it was a knee, but are we talking ACL? What are we talking here?
Haven't been told that.
Okay.
And, you know, I do know that it's not he's going to be fine. He's going to be out the rest of the season. And again, he's a class of 2026 guy, at least at this point. There have been a few rumblings that he could reclassify, but in any event, he's going to be fine.
Good to know. Another of the top-rated receivers. Good Lord, we are on a run with those. And this just in, we are putting our best foot forward, of course, with Fudd Nutters. I wonder if that's Fudd Nutters. I get it. Elmer Fudd. I thought it might have been a reference to Fudd Ruckers, the late, great burger joint that I used to take my kids to all the time when they were born because it was an excuse to go to Fuddruckers. They would not be going out of business, and I would be about 270 if they were still in business. So that's good. I'm not kidding. There's something in the Fuddruckers that I think was a narcotic that was like based on my DNA. I would like have dreams about it. It was bad. Anyway, that's
we used to take our kids loved Fuddruckers too. But
William, does Bama's struggles help us with Turbo Rogers? Losing to Vanderbilt's a struggle. I think the season's young, but Turbo Rogers, Anthony Turbo Rogers, of course, the running back committed to Alabama.
You know, I don't know that Ohio State needed that much help, to be honest. I think every little thing. I always say that every little advantage you have, I've long said this in recruiting, is an advantage you want. You know, you like to take every advantage you get. So I don't think it. I think it helps a little bit, but I've said for quite some time, Turbo Rogers is very interested in Ohio State, and he remains committed to Alabama. But I would be anything but shocked if he ended up at Ohio State. I'm not crystal balling him or predicting that. It wouldn't shock me at all. Great relationship with Carlos Lachlan. Carlos Lachlan is from Montgomery, Alabama, and he's been recruiting Turbo Rogers since Turbo was in 8th grade, and Ohio State has a absolutely realistic shot at flipping him.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys to comment on 2 things here. We'll go to Bill first and finish with Mark. 2 things. 1, seems to me that Will Howard is getting some national kind of pushback on how he's played because he's thrown a few interceptions. I do wonder if these people have watched all the games. He was 21 of 25 in the last game, 5 touchdowns. And I'm hearing that a lot of people think Will Howard, like if it comes down to it, I've heard a lot of people say if it comes down to the quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard. I saw Dylan Gabriel throw 2 terrible interceptions against Michigan State this past weekend. I don't know what was going on there. And another thing is I get people saying Ohio State hasn't played anybody, so they're choosing Oregon. pretty sure the best team any of the two teams have played so far is Iowa. Playing Boise State close is impressive. So your thoughts on Will Howard, William, and then the Ohio State-Oregon matchup as of right now and how you're feeling.
Well, I've been impressed with Will Howard. I think he's done a good job. Has he been C.J. Stroud? No. But how many C.J. Strouds are out there? I mean, like almost zero. C.J. Stroud is somewhat a one of a kind. I don't think you could expect C.J. Howard, C.J. Stroud, his first year at Ohio State, wasn't the C.J. Stroud that ended up at Ohio State. Give Will Howard a little more time. He's had 5 games, and I think he's done a good job. He is going to have a step up in competition this week. But as you mentioned, Dan, Oregon has not had a brutal schedule by any stretch of the imagination either yet. I tend to like Ohio State to go out there and win. I would feel better if it was Oregon traveling across the country and playing here, but I tend to like Ohio State's chances of getting this game out there. You know, some people I've seen are saying it's going to be a blowout either way. I've seen blowout Oregon, blowout. I do not see a blowout either way. I see a good game, and I like Ohio State's chances of coming out on top.
Ohio State will not get blown out. Go ahead, Mark, your thoughts on Will Howard so far. Does he deserve some of the national crap he's getting? And your thoughts on Oregon, Ohio State. They both played Michigan State. It's kind of interesting you have a common opponent headed into it.
Yeah, piggyback off of some of Bill's points. Only 5 games in, C.J. Stroud after, a couple of years was much better. So Will's got that learning curve. Criticism is, how do I say it, accurate that, haven't played the toughest schedule. So that's a nice ramp up for him. That works in his favor where he got to make a few mistakes. And then I think we talked about this as a group maybe after the podcast where in basketball, you can be a great point guard until you see ball pressure, until you see someone pick you up at half court and get in your face the entire game. All of a sudden, the wide open threes aren't there. You got to create your own shot. When I break down this film, the pocket Will Howard is standing in is very comfortable. There's a lot of room and a lot of time, and he's not playing with ball pressure. Now, as guards get pushed back into his face, and I'm assuming Oregon or a bigger or faster team may be able to create more pressure on him, will he rise up like a Jordan or a Kobe where I've just been waiting for the pressure? I love this. I light up under pressure. This is what I'm built for. Or does that pressure put some cracks in him? Or we see freezing or not throwing the ball or, all the things that quarterbacks do when the pressure is amped up. And maybe it's just not the pressure on the field, the pressure of Oregon, the pressure of the, away game. So we don't know who Will Howard is because he has not faced ball pressure, like a true pressure situation. And this is what we brought him here for. And this is what we had some of these other guys transfer in for, to when they got to the game like this, they would handle the pressure. Now, what's nice at Ohio State is he doesn't have to handle it all on his own. He's got a good cast of characters to hand it to, throw it to, that could make this go really easy for him if he knows how to dissect it. And with Chip Kelly pulling the puppet strings, you could slide some chips to Will Kelly or Will Howard's side right here and probably be safe with it.
Last question, I'll answer it. Brass tacks. Is Seth McLaughlin the best center in America so far? I don't think I'm qualified to sit here and evaluate center play across the country. I know he's been fantastic for Ohio State. Here's what I would say. And I heard there's a guy who has a podcast that's called like Sam on College Football, or I'll give him credit at some point in time in this thread. And he brought up a good point. McLaughlin's issues snapping were on the road. So we really haven't seen that yet. If we get through this game, this is going to be as good a test as you get in a road environment to snap it. That if we get through this one smoothly, I would say that Seth was a major, major addition, a major upgrade. I will say to this point, he has been expected. And I think if you're looking at I like to compare this team to last year's team and kind of get a sense of where you're at. He's well ahead of where Carson Hisman was at this time last year and who's kind of forced into action. So very optimistic about Seth, optimistic about the weekend, optimistic about having these dudes back here on Thursday. We'll get a look at where they are headed for the weekend. We'll get a look at some of the tape from this past weekend with our eye in the sky. And then we will get you more ready for the duck hunt out in Eugene. Have a good one, Bucknutters.